frame has been used for decades. Used in cinema, used by photographers who wanted more shots, more moments, more story on a single roll. The Pentax 17 brought that back. And when I finally gave it a real chance, it surprised me. So recently I've had the urge to shoot the Pentax 17 a little bit more. It's been sitting lonely on a shelf lately, and I honestly just felt bad. But one question kept nagging me. Does half frame actually hold up against the ultimate standard, 35mm? Everyone under the sun loves a good old 35mm frame, but half that? So I headed to Texas to find out. And that's unfortunately kinda where everything went wrong. And it was all my fault. Some people think half frames suck. Jason. So, we'll see if he's right. Also, yeah, we can't shoot this building back here because there's no trespassing signs everywhere, so. Next location. So the Texas mission was simple. The landscape was set. I'd be shooting the Pentax 17 against my Nikon F3. Oh, nice. Honestly, so far, I'm genuinely excited. The colors, the feel of these images, something's working. And it's not just the barbecue in my belly. And some of these images I'm actually digging more than the full frame counterparts. For this shot, however, the full frame is just so much sharper.
We're gonna get those bangers. That's what we're gonna get.
Now, quick context if you're new to the 17. The Pentax 17 is one of the only film cameras manufactured after 2020. None of us in the film community ever thought we would see that day. It's a half-framed, zone focus, fully automatic with more pro features than a Rubik's Cube champion. It was met with a lukewarm response on its launch. Half-frame and zone focus aren't exactly crowd pleasers, but it has definitely found a following for a reason. And I wanted to find out that reason and if it holds up.
Okay, so it is technically further than 10 feet. Let me do the 10 feet.
Now that 17 in the name is not quite arbitrary. Think 16 going on 17.
I am 16 going on 17.
Not quite full frame, but just enough to make you fall in love anyways. But unlike Rolf, some people think that it's a deal breaker. Now, while here in Texas, I was using the camera on auto mode. I figured that that's how most people would probably choose to shoot it in the first place. Unfortunately, that was specifically my downfall. In Texas, I knew I'd be shooting a lot of landscape, a lot of images at infinity. So I'd be consistently adjusting my focus between 10 feet and infinity. But while shooting these frames side by side, I did notice that the half frame image was ever so soft, especially when I knew I was setting my focus to infinity. So I'm kind of confused, because I know this lens is better than this. Was this just a downfall of half frame, or was something else going on here? I kept noticing that the details in the foreground were actually more than in focus than the deep distance, where I wanted the focus to be. However, look how tack sharp this image of Jason is. It totally rivals the full frame 35mm. Damn, that's quite nice.
I gotta say, shooting this camera is fun again. I forgot how fun and light and just breezy this thing is. I mean, the shutter, it's still not my favorite. It would be nice if it didn't just, I don't know, feel like a flaccid hot dog in a bun that wasn't grilled first, you know? But it is, and that's what we got. Okay, I think we should probably go to the next location. No. Damn it, Jason!
However, at this location, I noticed while watching my B-roll back that the camera mode selector had actually shifted and was now in nighttime slow speed shutter mode. What? I didn't do that. And yet the camera's sharpness seemed to improve, even though it was prioritizing a slower shutter. So yeah, now I'm just confused. Also, how did my dial change? As you'll see soon, that problem would definitely bite me in the ass in an expensive way.
You know what? No, I will put it in here. Slide in the Pentax. We'll see how it does.
On our last day here in Texas, I was actually excited to wake up for sunrise. I mean, as excited as one could be. However, today I would be learning my hardest lesson with one of the most expensive rolls of film. Yeah, this morning didn't really go as planned. Most of these shots have some sort of shutter blur, and to make matters worse, yeah, somehow I nuked 28 shots.
So, I think I just noticed that I've been on bulb mode this entire morning in this camera. It's because it's that last dial, that back dial is just so easy to move.
All morning long, with such beautiful light, I wasted these frames. None of them are even remotely good. Somehow, somewhere along the way, I messed up the dials so badly, and I didn't check. Looking back to this morning, I found out that I was in slow shutter speed mode again, with an exposure compensation of +2. For slide film, that's nuts. No wonder there are no hope for these images. I really wish that I would have listened to my gut, because I knew the shutter sound was a bit off.
Now that I found out that the settings are correct on this, I will go shoot amazing bangers at this Presbyterian church. Stay here.
But now, the dial was fixed, the exposure was back on track, but the focus was still slightly off, and I have no idea why. So I came home from Texas with more questions than I actually had answers.
And that was it.
Okay, so Texas. The dial situation? Yeah, that was on me. Completely my fault. An expensive lesson learned. I'll never get that Ektachrome roll back. But the focus was still driving me crazy. I got the negatives back and went frame by frame. And in most of these images, they felt slightly off and seemed like the focus was actually landing somewhere between 5 to 10-ish feet. So I did the one thing that none of us want to do. I read the manual again. That's when I found number 5. Focus is fixed regardless of the zone focus setting. Perform shooting at least 1 meter away, or 3.28 feet. I was never selecting my focus at all. Every landscape I thought I was nailing at infinity was fixed the whole time. Auto mode doesn't care, it's fixed focus, every single shot. Maybe I should have read the manual before going to test. So now I have the fix, but I need to test it, and Colorado is calling. So now the mission in Colorado was simple. Prove the theory. Shoot on program mode, use the zone focus properly, and see what the lens is actually capable of. And yeah, don't fuck up. That's right, baby. These shots are 100 times better. Sharp, clean, exactly what I knew this camera was capable of. So note to self, keep an eye on those pesky dials. They seem to change fairly easily, and you don't want them to betray you. This lens does marvelous things with portraits. It can definitely rival an image shot on full frame 35.
We're gonna shoot photos.
Other than this shot being certified fresh, my test worked the way I wanted it to. On multiple people mode, 10 feet, we can clearly see the car is noticeably sharper. But if we make our way to the background, on mountain mode, the image is sharper. Perfecto! Overall, it seems like 10 feet on the lens is roughly good for about 10 to 15 feet. Obviously, that has a lot to do with what the aperture is that the camera chooses for you, but under these conditions and at 400 ISO, that's where we are. Oh, I think I've earned this barbecue tonight. And to keep this fuzzy feeling going, the meter is totally one of the best things about this camera that no one really talks about enough. Every Colorado frame came back well exposed. It just handles it. I do keep coming back to ISO 400 with this camera because I feel like no matter what lighting condition you're under, 400 will usually be a good move. However, I do have a gripe about the viewfinder. It feels a bit cramped and claustrophobic. Those illuminated macro frame lines are right there in your face every single time you're shooting landscape. And I barely shoot the macro mode. So yeah, I feel like I'm fighting those smaller lines every time I compose a shot. But I'm sure maybe I can crack it open and see if I can do something about it. I originally came to Texas with one question about the Pentax 17 and half frame in general, but I found myself having to figure out this camera again. And I learned a lot, and yeah, at the expense of Ektachrome. So, does half frame suck? Well, let's talk about that 17 in the name for a second. The Pentax 17 gives you a 24 by 17 millimeter negative versus your 24 to 36 of a full frame 35. But thing is, standard 35 motion picture film, the stuff that Hollywood has been shooting blockbusters on for decades, is an image size around 24.89 by 18.67 millimeters. Sound familiar? And most times it's matted down to something even smaller. The format isn't the limitation. It never was. A sharp lens can prove stunning results. Half frame has always lived or died by the lens in front of it. And the Pentax 17 proves that again. Also, practically speaking, half frame means 72 shots on a 36 exposure roll with the same developing costs. Sure, scanning usually has an upcharge, but it's nowhere near another roll of film. You're essentially cutting your per shot cost in half. And for anyone shooting a lot, that math can add up fast. Not to mention that I've seen 11 by 14 prints made from half frame negatives up close, and they totally hold up. They look great. At the end of the day, this camera is just downright fun. Sure, the dials move too easy and the shutter is a little flaccid sounding, but it's honestly still a joy. So, does half frame suck? No, absolutely not. At the end of the day, it all just comes down to the lens. And this one has a pretty damn good one. Especially when you don't
But I guess.